Actress Sydney Sweeney in the middle of a political firestorm after online critics claim that her new ad seen there for American Eagle jeans promotes racism. FBN's Lawrence Medetti's got the details on that for us. So what exactly are people saying?
Hey, Sandra. Well, MSNBC, an opinion writer there, writes Sydney Sweeney's ad showed an unbridled cultural shift toward whiteness after the retailer, American Eagle, released this denim ad starring the White Lotus star.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Sydney Sweeney has her jeans.
Jeans, as in Jeans, Sandra. Well, that ad, dividing America. Liberal online magazine Slate explains, and I quote, "One side declared that American Eagle's campaign carried racial undertones, promoted eugenics, and served as fascist propaganda. The other side embraced Sweeney as a jeans model and celebrated the commercial as a nail in the coffin for woke advertising." Neither American Eagle nor Sweeney have responded to our request for comment, but the ad is certainly catching eyeballs. One that dropped has been viewed more than 1.5 million times on Instagram. And that's helped the company on Wall Street. Look, shares are down more than 25% this year, but the stock has popped since this collab was first announced.
So I genuinely never thought that we would be discussing Sydney Sweeney or women's jeans on this channel, but sometimes the culture war takes you in interesting directions. And apparently we have to discuss today this brand new American Eagle marketing campaign and the massive and ridiculous backlash it has triggered by woke leftists who are, unfortunately for them, though, rapidly finding out that this is 2025. Joe Biden is no longer president. These people were soundly rejected on November 5th. And as a result, nobody cares. Nobody's listening. These people do not have power. And that's kind of satisfying to see. But with that said, I think there's a genuine point to be had that these people at the same time, they didn't go away after November 5th. They're still around and they simply cannot help themselves, despite the fact that they're massively discredited for these types of things, despite the fact that every normal person in America is laughing at ridiculous headlines like this. These people decided to actually boomerang themselves, right? Do something that would backfire, because all that has happened as a result of the left basically trying to argue that in America in 2025, it should be illegal to be an attractive white person. They brought a ton of attention to something I, for instance, otherwise would not have noticed. I had no idea that Sydney Sweeney was involved with an American Eagle jeans advertising until the moment that the leftists decided to say it is somehow racist to put like attractive white models and things, because again, in America in 2025, apparently that's supposed to be illegal or something. Nonetheless, we'll get into this full story here today. I'll tell you all about it because obviously this is kind of the buzz of America lately, except the difference is that unlike when conservatives came after Bud Light and a boycott actually resulted in declining stock prices and a damage to their business, the opposite is happening, which really tells you, right, where the culture is, right, where the normal people are, where the consumers are. Because if these radical lunatics that are like 5 to 10% of the social outcasts of society really were as important as they pretended to be online, then I don't know, maybe you would not see stocks going up. Maybe you would not see sales actually being effective. But as it turns out, here you have it where, corporate America is basically going back to normal, right? The normal beauty standards like pre-2020. And apparently that's Nazism, that's eugenics propaganda, that's white supremacy, all the things they're now saying. So we'll tell you about this in today's video. And if you're asking this question, you're an older person, you're like, who is Sydney Sweeney? It doesn't even matter. Look, she's a female celebrity. I barely even know why she's famous. But again, she's objectively like an attractive woman. And because she's attractive and white, that is apparently the controversy that we'll tell you about. So folks, do us a favor. If you enjoy our content, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. Subscribing here, guys, is not only the best way to support our videos, but it also ensures that you can stay up to date with all of the latest news and coverage. And with that said, so basically, to make a long story short, the cancel mob is out because American Eagle, the jeans brand, obviously recently did an advertising campaign with Sydney Sweeney. And as you can see, like, here are some of the photos. I mean, pretty normal stuff, right? Just, hey, it's been done before. We've seen it before. It used to be legal again in America, where you have like a attractive female celebrity model for a female clothing brand. You know, what is the big issue here? And it was marked, of course, by scenes like this, which again, they're calling fascist propaganda.
Sydney Sweeney, Hasbro Keynes.
So on one hand, you probably watch something like that and think, where possibly could be the controversy? What's the problem with this? On the other hand, I also understand fully why the left is upset, because this basically goes against everything they stand for. Again, you have an attractive white woman that's supposed to be illegal, but also secondly, she also, like, as a middle finger almost to these people, she drives off in a 1965 V8 Mustang GT350, which is arguably one of the most right-wing coded cars ever made in history. Okay, I kind of get it, but, you know, with that said, right? Let's now break down, because again, apparently you watch an ad like that and you're thinking, oh, that was normal, that's whatever. Maybe you think it was cool, maybe you just don't care, whatever. But where could you possibly draw racism or Nazism or white supremacy or any of these things from? Well, take a listen here for yourself to just an example of the type of reactions that this advertising campaign has been receiving from the leftists. And then in a second, I'll tell you what I think is really going on here, if I didn't already state the obvious.
Yep, that got me too. And I don't know why. Maybe because it's just so blatant. I keep thinking that people just are not gonna believe us until we're hung out there. But then even then, I feel like they'll be like, oh no. Kind of like they are with. I see the same perpetual self-imposed victimhood. You know, I did a post about saying, hey, like, these are the action steps that we really need to see from the good whites. Where I said, I need protection. Put my cash out. And she goes, well, would you just rather white women just not follow you at all anymore? Because da-da-da. And I'm like, yeah, definitely unfollow me. If you thought you being here and clicking a follow button was doing me a favor. Same as that one guy, whatever his name was. Descendant of the oppressor. He's like, well, Lindsay still does a good job and I appreciate her work and labor, so I'm going to still follow her. No, definitely unfollow me. If you are any type of person, but especially a white woman who's coming to this platform thinking you're doing me a favor by clicking a follow button, leave now. Immediately now. Because honey boo boo, not this person, I'm doing you a favor by showing up and calling you out.
I mean, calm down, right? It's not all that deep, but according to these people, genuinely and unironically, because Sydney Sweeney modeled in this advertising right here, this means the KKK is back. This means we're about to get lynched in the streets, all the minorities. This is the end of the world. This is the return of Jim Crow. See this picture right here? Aren't you just so threatened? That's Jim Crow right there. Okay, in the flesh. Hitler Youth might as well be. It's like, what? But again, I think we really understand what's going on here, which is, according to these people, it's a crime to be two things in 2025, right? They're really mad when you break it down because, first of all, you have an attractive woman in advertising as compared to some of the other scenes we've seen, okay? And basically, you know, the very idea that things can be beautiful, people can be beautiful, and that's not like a bad thing, right? The left has a massive problem with this because, you know, everything inside their soul and outside is just ugly, and they're kind of obsessed with pushing that on everyone. So I guess that's crime number one. Crime number one is, how dare you put an attractive person in an ad? But secondly, of course, where they're getting the Nazi from, the eugenics, all these things, is because they're also further saying that not only is it an attractive person, but it's an attractive white person, right? And apparently here is the argument. Because you have in 2025, like, you ever sit down and watch TV, watch commercials, you notice this pattern where, like, every single family is multiracial, diverse. There's like a quota in every single commercial. But also on top of that, if you watch the vast majority of corporate commercials nowadays, the white person is usually made to look stupid or like ugly or emasculated. You know, you ever seen like this is like generic corporate commercial where there's like a fat white guy who's like clueless about something and like his wife is saying he's an idiot, and then a good looking minority salesman comes in to like solve their problem or fix their day. Like, that's every single commercial, right? All basically implicitly made to like make the white person look bad. And here's the thing, if it was just like one You know, it was just one commercial like that, a few, then it's like whatever. But you definitely notice a pattern of that type of thing. But of course, you're called racist. If you notice that, you're like, hey, why are all the commercials like this in 2025? Hey, you racist. Why are you dog whistling at white supremacy? So that's the thing. But then on the other hand, basically the where I'm going with all of this is that, okay, with all of that type of advertising in 2025, when you just do one thing in the opposite, when you just basically do one advertising campaign with an attractive white celebrity, that's the return of Nazism. That's the return of fascism and all these things. Just utterly ridiculous. Although, you know, at the same time here, I have to be honest, I think this is maybe simpler than we're making it out to be. Like, obviously, at the outside veneer of all of this type of stuff is political. And by the way, you know, you see that this is not just limited to like random people on the internet, even the media is engaged in it. We'll talk about that in a second. But last thing I want to say on this front, I don't think it's actually about politics when you break it down. What's really going on here, okay, they can mask it and all of it, but truly, look, it's just the facts. Okay, this is what's happening. There are a lot of females out there who are probably jealous of Sydney. Like, again, we're just being honest here. This is the truth, and many people will attest this is really what's happening behind the scenes, like inside these people, right? A lot of women out there are basically probably jealous of Sydney Sweeney's looks and maybe the male attention she gets online, whatever. They're probably like, we'll say, less attractive, right? Lower on the scale. And essentially what's going on is all these people are like, you know, jealous, and they're trying to figure out a way to vent that jealousy. And obviously, they're not going to just do it directly. They're not going to say, oh, I'm just jealous of Sydney Sweeney. So the politics is basically an excuse, when in reality, what's really going on, and by the way, what I truly think drives a lot of this like woke political stuff is not really anything political. It's more a problem going on inside, right? It's insecurity, jealousy, whatever it is. And that's just the truth, you know? That's just the truth. That, by the way, is also similarly what drives a lot of the, you know, class stuff, the racial stuff, you know, all this like white privilege, oh, you know, reparations, same stuff, right? It's like there's internal insecurities, internal jealousy, envy of others. And that's frankly what drives a lot of left-wing politics. But in this case, I think that is actually fully on display, because many of us can attest to this being a story we've seen in our own personal lives. And you're basically just watching that play out on a massive scale, where deep down, again, all that's driving this is jealousy because she's an attractive white woman. And again, that's a crime, apparently. So with all of that in mind, I want to note to you that this is not just a couple random TikTokers online. No, you indeed have mainstream news outlets. NBC News here is reporting that American Eagle is sparking backlash for touting Sydney Sweeney's quote-unquote great genes, which they're saying is a dog whistle for GENES, like great genes, like basically pushing eugenics. According to them, that's what these people are saying. Here, of course, you have the infamous one from MSNBC themselves going on to say that Sydney Sweeney's ad shows an unbridled cultural shift towards whiteness. Unbridled cultural shift towards whiteness. So let me ask the question again. What is the cultural shift where all the advertising is like not including white people, or there's always like this diversity balance, and then the white person is always like made to look bad or stupid or emasculated or whatever? That was not a cultural shift towards anything, right? We're not allowed to notice that. But apparently the moment that you have of all that advertising, one ad features a white person in a positive light, this is an unbridled cultural shift towards whiteness. Well, I don't even know what that means, but apparently it goes on here to state that advertisements are always mirrors of society, and sometimes what they reflect is ugly and startling. Which I have to say sounds like a massive projection, right? Ugly and startling. It doesn't actually look that ugly, right? And I think that's their grievance, is suddenly the moment that advertising isn't ugly, this is startling, right? Normalcy is taking back our culture. How could this possibly be? Unbelievable. I don't know what that means. Cultural shift towards whiteness, right? But again, as I said, I think that's truly what's going on here. And of course, it wasn't even just MSNBC trying to push this cancellation attempt, whatever that's supposed to mean. You even had the folks at ABC News on Good Morning America just today talking about how this was, you know, supposed to be tied to American eugenics and white supremacy. Take a listen.
Time to check the pulse. We begin with the backlash over a new ad campaign featuring actress Sydney Sweeney.
Yeah, the ads are for American Eagle, and the tagline is, Sydney Sweeney has great genes. Now, in one ad, the blonde-haired, blue-eyed actress talks about genes as in DNA being passed down from her parents.
The play on words is being compared to Nazi propaganda with racial undertones.
The pun, good genes, activates troubling historical associations for this country. The American eugenics movement in its prime between like 1900 and 1940 weaponized the idea of good genes just to justify white supremacism.
Despite that backlash, American Eagle stock has been soaring.
Well, I have to say, I think my female jealousy theory really being what's driving all of this, it's a little strong thus far. I'm just saying. Let me know your thoughts. You can have your own reasons. Seems to be a pattern going on here, right? But okay, fine, fair enough, whatever. I'm not trying to say anything. Don't read too much into it. But with all of that in mind, here's the thing. Okay, we understand obviously how ridiculous this is. I think we understand everything by now. The only question really left to ask is it working? Well, first of all, I think it's worth noting the kind of cultural push that drove American Eagle to make an ad like this, which is, as a matter of fact, when you look at the woke attempts at advertising in the past few years, right? We saw this a lot kind of post-COVID under Biden, where they're intentionally trying to put like obese people into things and whatever, is supposed to be going on here, this type of stuff, right? And as a matter of fact, you've seen major brands, not just American Eagle, but Victoria's Secret and others, announce in late 2024 to 2025 the reversal of these very types of things. And why is that? It's because objectively, this marketing scheme has not worked, right? The diversity strategy of like, it's not sold products. And why is that the case? Because as a matter of fact, it turns out that the central theory behind all of this, which is like, hey, if fat, ugly people see our ad and it features fat, ugly people, that'll make it feel relatable. That's not actually even how marketing works, right? People are naturally driven towards beauty. People want to like look better, you know what I mean? And so, and obviously stuff like this is just, genuinely kind of off-putting to see in an advertisement. So it's not worked. And the central kind of normal theory of history is that, hey, like attractive people are better at selling things. It has worked. And so again, I think that's already point number one, where I'm going with this. That's point number one to show actually American Eagle already has been successful with this, because guess what? There's a reason why this type of advertising is now being favored, and other brands like Victoria's Secret, Calvin Klein, all this stuff are canceling the kind of woke push, because guess what? It objectively was bad for business, because the left-wing theory about all this stuff about equal representation, all that stuff, was bogus and actually really bad for business. That's number one. Number two, though, however, if you don't want to take my word for it, there's a very simple question we can ask, which is the stock price. And how have, guys, American Eagle stocks been doing over the past month, ever since the Sydney Sweeney endorsement dropped? Well, as you can see, up like a rocket ship, up 20% over the span of the last month. Even today, where you saw American Eagle take a minor hit, they're still up over the week, 8% over the past 5 days. But it's also worth noting, right, that it was just overall a bad day for clothing brands in general. As you can see, Abercrombie & Fitch, Urban Outfitters, Lululemon, Gap, all had negative days in the red. So all of that in mind, right? It's just an objective fact. No, their brand is doing very well. Their company's doing very well. And why exactly is that? It's because guess what? The cancellation campaign has not worked. It only brought more attention already to a campaign you would have otherwise not really known anything about if, again, the left hadn't just been able to help themselves, which they never can. This is the opposite, by the way, as I'll note again, of the story you saw with the Bud Light stock price, or the Anheuser-Busch, I should say, stock price when the Dylan Mulvaney thing happened. And why is that? Because these people have no power. These woke idiots and morons do not have any power left in society. They're essentially just angry, envious, jealous, bitter seethers on the inside who are like just trying to ruin normal things for normal people. And this is a case where now you're seeing, as you saw on November 5th, normal people are just tuning it out. They're saying we don't care, right? And that's the situation you see. Because not a single normal person in this country sees this picture and thinks to themselves, Nazi propaganda. But again, when you have people who are having some problems inside with their own, I guess, personal image, that's the product you see, truly. So anyways, with all of that said, guys, I guess you could say America's back in a sense. I don't know. It's like society is normal again, I guess, right? I don't know. You're allowed to have attractive white people and things. Oh, wow. It's just it's catastrophic. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts. Be sure to leave a like on this video, guys. Subscribe to the channel. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. And until next time, God bless and peace.